Hello, my friend. Welcome to StoryVibe English. Today I want to tell you the story of a boy. A boy who loved books more than toys. A boy who asked questions all the time. A boy who was curious about everything. His name was Bill Gates. Bill was born in 1955 in Seattle, USA. His family was not poor, but they were not super rich either. They lived a normal life. His father was a lawyer, his mother worked with schools and charities. Bill's family wanted him to study hard, but they could not imagine how far his mind would go. From a young age, Bill loved to read. He would spend hours in the library, not just reading stories, but learning about science, history, and computers. And here, let me tell you something, my friend. As you listen to Bill's story, you are also improving your English. If you want more inspiring stories told in simple English, don't forget to subscribe to StoryVibe English. Every story is a chance to grow your language and your life. When other kids played outside, Bill often sat quietly with a big book in his hands. He was different. He was curious. He was hungry to know more. And this hunger for knowledge was the seed that would grow into something world-changing. But at that time, no one could guess that this quiet boy would one day build a company that would change the way billions of people live and work. In school, Bill was smart, sometimes too smart. Teachers said he was restless, always asking why and how. But one day, something happened that changed his life. His school got access to a computer. Now remember, this was the 1960s. Computers were not in every home. They were big machines, rare and expensive. Most people had never touched one. But Bill, he was fascinated. The first time he saw a computer, his eyes lit up. He wanted to know everything. How it worked. What it could do. How he could make it do more. He started spending hours with the machine. Typing, testing, learning. Sometimes he skipped sports. Sometimes he forgot lunch. All he wanted was the computer. And soon, he was not just playing with it. He was programming it. Writing his own little codes. Telling the computer what to do. Other kids thought it was boring. But for Bill, it was magic. This was the beginning of a love story between a boy and technology. A love story that would change the future of the world. At school, Bill was not alone in his passion for computers. There was another boy who shared the same fire. His name was Paul Allen. Paul was older than Bill, but they quickly became friends. Both of them loved technology. Both of them loved solving problems. And together they became unstoppable. They spent long nights in the computer lab, typing lines of code, fixing errors, and dreaming about the future. While other teenagers talked about sports, music, or parties, Bill and Paul talked about computers. They imagined a world where every person could use one. Back then it sounded crazy. Computers were too big, too expensive, too complicated. But these two young dreamers believed. One of their first projects was simple but clever. They wrote a program that helped manage traffic in their city. It was not perfect, but it showed what was possible. The experience taught them something important. Their passion could create real solutions. Their ideas could make money. And their friendship could change the world. This was not just play anymore. It was the first step towards something much bigger. And soon Bill Gates and Paul Allen would take a leap. That would lead to the birth of Microsoft. By the mid-1970s, the world of computers was starting to change. For the first time, companies were trying to make personal computers, machines small enough and cheap enough for ordinary people to use. Most experts laughed. They said, computers are only for big companies, banks, or scientists. Regular people will never need one at home. But Bill Gates and Paul Allen saw something different. They believed the future belonged to personal computers. And they wanted to be part of it. One day, they read about a new computer called the Altair 8800. It was small, but it had no software. No programs. It was like a body without a brain. Bill and Paul saw an opportunity. They worked day and night to write a program for it. Finally, they created a version of BASIC, a computer language that could bring the Altair to life. When they showed it to the company behind the Altair, the bosses were amazed. Two young men had done what experts thought impossible. Soon after, Bill dropped out of Harvard University. He and Paul packed their bags and moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico. There, in 1975, they started a small company with a big dream. They called it Microsoft. At first, it was just two young men, some borrowed desks, and long nights of work. But deep inside, they knew this was only the beginning. Microsoft would not only grow into a company, it would grow into an empire. The first years of Microsoft were not easy. Bill and Paul worked day and night. They had no big office, no large team, no money to waste. Just passion, vision, and endless energy. Bill Gates was only in his 20s, but he already showed the qualities of a strong leader. He was tough. He was serious. And he demanded the best from himself and from others. Some people thought he was too intense. But Bill believed that only hard work could turn dreams into reality. Step by step, Microsoft began to grow. They wrote software for different computers. More companies started to notice them. And Bill Gates became known not just as a programmer, but also as a businessman. He was not afraid to take risks. He was not afraid to negotiate hard. Sometimes he surprised older, more experienced businessmen with his confidence. One of Microsoft's big breaks came in 1980. IBM, one of the largest computer companies in the world, wanted to enter the personal computer market. They needed an operating system, the brain of the computer. Bill Gates saw his chance. He promised IBM that Microsoft could deliver. The truth was, Microsoft didn't even have one yet. But Bill made the deal anyway. Then he quickly bought the rights to a small operating system, improved it, and renamed it MS-DOS. When IBM's computers launched with MS-DOS, Microsoft exploded into success. It was the turning point. From that moment, Bill Gates was no longer just a young dreamer. He was becoming a giant in the world of technology. By the mid-1980s, Microsoft was already strong. But Bill Gates was not satisfied. He always looked ahead. He always asked, "What's next?" Computers at that time still used MS-DOS. It was powerful but not very friendly. Users had to type commands, long boring lines of text. Most people found it difficult. Bill Gates had a vision. He wanted computers that anyone could use. Not just scientists, not just businesses, but ordinary people, families, students, teachers, workers. The answer was simple but revolutionary: Windows. Instead of typing commands, people could click on pictures. Instead of black screens with white letters, they saw colors, icons, and windows. It made computers easy. It made them human. When Microsoft launched Windows in 1985, it was the start of a new era. First, some critics laughed. They said it was slow, not serious, just a toy. But Bill Gates believed in it. And he was right. Year after year, Windows improved. By the 1990s, it was everywhere. In homes, in offices, in schools. Microsoft became the king of software. And Bill Gates? He became one of the richest men on the planet. But more than that, he became the man who put a computer on every desk, in every home. It was his dream. And now it was reality. By the 1990s, Microsoft was at the top of the world. Almost every computer ran on Windows. Almost every office used Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Bill Gates was the richest man on earth. Magazines called him the king of software. But with great power came great challenges. Many people began to criticize Microsoft. They said the company was too big, too strong. Some said it killed competition. Governments started asking questions. In the United States, Microsoft faced a huge trial. The government accused the company of being a monopoly, a business so powerful it controlled the entire market. For months, Bill Gates had to defend himself and his company in court. Some of his interviews made him look cold and arrogant. For the first time, his image was not only genius and success, but also power and controversy. At the same time, the world of technology was changing. The internet was rising fast. New companies like Google and Amazon were being born, and Microsoft had to fight to stay relevant. These years were difficult for Gates, but they also taught him something important. Even giants can be challenged. Even the most successful must adapt and change. Bill Gates was no longer just a young dreamer with big ideas. He was now a powerful leader facing the weight of responsibility for his company, for his employees, and for the future of technology itself. By the early 2000s, Bill Gates had already achieved more than most people could dream of. He was the richest man in the world. Microsoft was everywhere. But deep inside, Gates began to ask himself a new question. What is the meaning of all this success if I cannot use it to help others? Together with his wife, Melinda, he created the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It became one of the largest charities in history. Their mission was clear: to fight poverty, to improve health, and to give children everywhere a chance at education. Gates started focusing on global problems. Diseases like malaria and polio still killed millions. In poor countries, families had no clean water. Children could not go to school. Bill and Melinda decided to change that. They donated billions of dollars. They funded vaccines, schools, and clean water projects. They partnered with scientists, teachers, and governments. Some people were surprised. They only saw Gates as the tough businessman. But now he was something more. A philanthropist. A man using his wealth to improve the world. In interviews, Gates often said, "Success is not just about what you accomplish for yourself. It's about what you do for others." This new mission gave his life a new meaning. He was no longer building just software. He was building hope. Bill Gates was no longer only the computer guy. Through his foundation, he became a fighter for global health and education. One of his biggest battles was against disease. In poor countries, millions of children died each year from illnesses that could be prevented with a simple vaccine. Gates decided this was unacceptable. He worked with scientists and doctors to create vaccination programs. In Africa and Asia, his foundation helped deliver millions of doses. Diseases like polio, once common, almost disappeared in many regions. But Gates didn't stop there. He focused on education too. He believed that every child should have access to learning, no matter where they were born. His foundation built schools, gave scholarships, and supported teachers with resources. And when the world faced global crises, from climate change to health emergencies, Gates was often one of the first voices calling for action. He warned about pandemics. He invested in green energy. He pushed governments to think long-term, not just short-term. Some people agreed with him. Some criticized him. But no one could deny one thing. Bill Gates had moved far beyond Microsoft. He was now trying to solve problems for the entire planet. From computers, to classrooms, to vaccines, his influence touched billions of lives. From a curious boy who loved books, to a young man obsessed with computers, to the co-founder of Microsoft, and finally, to one of the greatest philanthropists in history. This is the journey of Bill Gates. He showed the world that passion and hard work can build an empire. He proved that success is not only about money, but also about giving back, about helping others, about leaving the world better than you found it. Today, Bill Gates is no longer the richest man alive. And that's fine, because his true wealth is measured, not in dollars, but in lives changed. His story teaches us: stay curious, work hard, think big, and when you succeed, use your success to lift others. Thank you, my friend, for listening to this story on StoryVibe English. I hope you enjoyed practicing your English, while also learning something powerful and inspiring. If you want more stories of dreamers, leaders, and innovators, make sure you subscribe and join us again. And now I want to ask you, whose story would you like to hear next? Which person's journey could inspire you while helping you learn English at the same time? Write your answer in the comments. Your idea might be our next story. Until then, keep learning, keep dreaming, and keep speaking English with confidence.